confidence in your pricing comes from clarity. Once I got crystal clear on my costs, my value, and my process, pricing conversations became so much easier. I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew exactly what I needed to charge in order to be profitable.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today I'm getting real, like very candid about one of the most painful parts of my design business journey, pricing. And I mean really real, because I've made some more pricing mistakes than really anyone should, and probably more than I care to admit. And it took me years and some seriously tough lessons to finally feel confident in what I charge and how I charge it. So, if you are stuck second guessing your rates, maybe you're scared to raise your prices, or you're wondering if maybe you're leaving money on the table, trust me, you're not alone. I have been exactly where you are. So let me tell you about the project that still makes me cringe when I think about it. Picture this. It is 2016. It is my second year in business, full time, and I am beyond excited because I finally landed a commercial project. Yeah, it was a local bakery. Um, and the owner wanted me to design her brand new location that they were just about to open. I was super excited about the creative challenge, a little nervous, but I brought in a contractor who I knew, so I felt a bit more comfortable. I put together a proposal and I quoted her. When I look back on it and I calculated, it was roughly based on 60 hours of work, but I did a flat fee, which honestly, I shouldn't have done. Uh, I think I wanted to charge hourly, but she pushed back and she said that the other designers she'd spoken to had a fixed fee. And so I thought, okay, well, I better figure this out. Um, and so I acquiesced when she told me to do a fixed fee. That was just the beginning. You know that expression? They say, when you give an inch, they take a mile. I definitely should have charged or quoted her higher than that, because when I did present my fixed fee, wait for it, she pushed back on that. Do you see a bit of a trend here? And you know what she did? In order to get me to reduce my fee, she dangled a carrot. She said something like this. She's like, Rebecca, if this goes well, and I'm sure it will, we are going to have our other location ready for a redesign, and you will get to design that because we want to have both locations in the same design aesthetic. And like the eager people pleaser designer that I was back then, I cut my fee, listen to this, in half. Yeah. So I went from wanting to charge hourly because I was like, I don't know how many hours it's going to take, to then putting together a fee proposal for a fixed fee and then cutting it in half because I thought this was my foot in the door. She dangled the carrot and this was going to lead me to more work, right? Oh, so wrong. So very, very wrong. What followed from there was a total nightmare. She did not respect my designs at all. I was trying to be really good and push my design aesthetic, which I knew was so beautiful. I had such an incredible vision for the space. But everything I designed, she changed or didn't like. She pushed back. Every single piece of millwork that I designed, she adjusted. She cheapened it. The colors I carefully selected based on the psychology behind food psychology and what causes people to want to eat, she changed. I spent so many hours on this project. It was like design by committee. You've heard that expression, right? Where where like lots of people come to the table and everyone has a different idea and you have to come up with a decision, which is so hard when you have so many opinions. But it was really the committee of me and her who, in my opinion, didn't have great taste. And she really just thought she knew better. And she definitely did not trust my expertise. She was rude, she was dismissive, and she made the entire process totally miserable for me. Like, I actually think I've blocked a lot of this project out of my mind because it was so stressful and traumatic for me. I put in over 300 hours on that project. 5 times what I originally quoted, guys. That's 300 hours. And in the end, I was so embarrassed by the final result that when they started to get media and press, I didn't even raise my hand to say, hey, that was me. I didn't share it on social media. I didn't put it on my website. I didn't photograph it. I just wanted to get as far the F away from that project as I possibly could. I did not promote my involvement in the project whatsoever. But here's the kicker. Oh, it gets better, guys. Hold on. Taking a sip of my tea. About a year later, I drove by the second location, which, by the way, the one I was supposed to design, and she never asked me to. So I never designed it. So much for the frickin' carrot, right? But you know what I saw when I looked in the window? I did not step foot in it. But you know what I saw? The exact same freaking ugly Home Depot pendant lights hanging in that second location that I tried so hard to discourage her from buying in the first location. I knew then that there was never going to be future projects. I mean, she obviously just went and did that one herself, and that's fine. If she wanted to DIY it, don't pretend that you want a designer and tell me that she's going to listen. I feel like I'd been played a little. The truth is, if I were to design that same size of project, that same scope of work today, I would probably charge at least 10 times what I charged back then. At least. So the bakery project, it wasn't actually a one-off disaster. Sad to say, it was part of a pattern of pricing mistakes that I made for many years. And so maybe you're going to recognize yourself in some of these. I'm going to share these mistakes that I now, in hindsight, after painfully going back through my own stories, I have learned to share with you. So the first mistake number one was I was charging hourly, except for in that particular case, but I was initially in my early years charging hourly without any boundaries. So I thought hourly made sense because most of the people that I knew were charging hourly. The designer I'd worked for was charging hourly, and it just seemed fair, right? Like, I don't know, what's it going to cost? Well, my fee is $125 an hour. Like, that just seemed to be the industry standard. But what I didn't realize But what I didn't realize was how easy it became to overwork and undercharge and constantly either discount invoices behind the scenes, like not even telling my clients, or just not record hours that I was working at all because I was embarrassed that it took me so long to do something. There were no guardrails, there were no limits, and clients felt entitled to endless revisions because they were paying for my time. But then I would feel guilty and not charge for my time. And then really the part that I hated the most was towards the end of the project, if a client was on a tight budget, which most of my projects and clients back then were, they would say, don't bother coming to site. It's just the tile install, no need. And then mistakes would happen and I wasn't there to catch them because they didn't want to pay for my time. So there were no boundaries. Mistake number two was that I was basing my pricing on what I thought clients could afford. This is a big one, and I'm going to repeat this one for the cheap seats in the back because I think a lot of us do this. I was basing my pricing on what I thought clients could afford. Instead of making a price or calculating a design fee based on the value that I provided or what the project was actually worth and what the project required, I was making assumptions about people's budgets. Raise your hand, nod your head, and say, if you have been there. I'm preaching a little because I just feel like this is so many of us. Here's your spoiler alert. Pricing based on assumptions will keep you broke and stuck in a budget client cycle. mistake number three that I made was I was avoiding the money conversation most of the time entirely. I used to dread talking about budget and money. And so I would bury it maybe at the end of our initial meeting or kind of skip through it all together and say, well, we'll figure it out. Or once we dive in, or I would come up with some wording around that. And I would kind of hope that somehow it would just work itself out and that I wouldn't have to talk about it. It never did. Part of my problem in that bakery project likely was, now that I'm reflecting in hindsight, that I did not get a clear budget from her up front of even like what we were looking to design with. Like, or I didn't even tell her whether it was coming from her or me. I'm pretty sure, if I remember the conversation correctly, she didn't know what things were going to cost, but she had an idea of a budget in mind. And so instead of me putting together a budget saying, here's what the millwork's going to be, the lighting, da da da, getting her buy in before I actually started to design, I just dove right in, which didn't help the situation. And the last mistake that in sort of hindsight reflecting, I see is that I wasn't actually, when I was calculating my design fee, I wasn't factoring in everything I was actually doing. Do you guys know what I mean? Like, oh God, I wasn't charging for time spent sourcing things like, or those quick phone calls that you would have off the cuff, or travel time. I never charged for travel time. I didn't even charge the, like a mileage fee. I definitely didn't charge for administrative work if it was just me like looking into a file or trying to find something. And any time that I spent troubleshooting, like that, none of that was factored into my pricing. So I was giving away hundreds of hours of work for free. I would just base it off of, okay, well, I was in AutoCAD for 2 hours. So that's 2 hours today on that project. Or I was, at the fabric showroom, or I was putting this scheme together, or I was creating a presentation board. I wasn't factoring in all the little itty bitty shitty things that happened in between. The real wake up call came on another project when I had finally switched to flat fees. But I still wasn't paying attention to my time like I should have been. So, my first lesson in flat fees with the bakery was that this is a bad idea because your hours can get out of control. But I wasn't diligently charging for all my hours. And so I knew something had to change. And so when I was presented with this idea of fixed fees, I thought, okay, if I can do it in such a way that I'm charging a lot more for my design fee, then I think it can make up for it. But the mistake I made is I made this assumption that if I moved to flat fee or fixed fee, I didn't have to track my time. No one had to track my hours because I was, what would be the point? It doesn't matter. Let's say if I said it was $5,000, if I said it was $20,000, that's how much it was, right? It's not about time. And I would relax thinking, oh, I don't have to worry about tracking my time. Until I realized my bank account was getting low. And I thought, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. I'm so embarrassed to share this story. Excuse me. This was a few years later. Let's just take a minute to appreciate Rebecca's slow learning. I decided something with this project was taking too long. Why were we like, why was the bank account getting low? Like, what was going on? I had this feeling, this like nagging gut feeling, like, I don't know if we're making any money. So I asked my team to they've been tracking their hours because most of them were on contract, not all of them. And so I said, can you put all your hours? We're going to put a Google, or not a Google, I don't know if it was Excel spreadsheet together for this one project. I want to put all your hours in there. And well, when we looked at the numbers, I basically started to cry. I, at that point in time, had now paid my team more money than I had collected from the client for that phase of the project. What does that mean? That means negative revenue. That's not even including my hours. I didn't even put my own hours into the Excel spreadsheet because I had a pretty robust team at the time. And so I was paying a lot of people and they were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but I was still overseeing. I was still creative direction. I was still sourcing. I was still meeting with the clients. Like I was still doing a lot, but I just refused to track my time like a freaking crazy ass bitch. Like I did not help anyone by doing this. I was at a break even point without even knowing it, I will tell you, before we'd even finished the project. We still had more hours to put in. And then from that point to the end of that project, all I felt was anxiety. From that point until the end of that project, all I felt was anxiety because every minute someone on my team worked on that project, I knew it was coming out of my pocket. But the good news is because of that project, I started tracking hours religiously. I started asking my team to pay attention to my hours that I was tracking and making sure my admin would enter in my hours because I still wasn't that good at it. I made sure they tracked their hours and that we tracked them against the project. And in weekly meetings, we would look at the hours for any given project and compare that to what I had charged the client. That was my holy crap moment. I realized that's when I realized that I could be very talented. I could have a team executing beautiful designs, highly skilled, and have amazing client relationships. But if I couldn't price profitably, I didn't have a business. I, several years in, had an expensive hobby. It was a real wake up call because after that project, it didn't happen again. I had to get super clear on what I was paying out, what the actual cost of things was, what the hours were. And I completely changed my pricing formula. But honestly, it took me at least 5 years, if I'm being honest, to figure this out. So here's what I wish someone had told me from day one. First, your price sets the tone for how clients are going to treat you, right? Think back to my bakery example. When I was undercharging, I was attracting clients who did not value my expertise. She saw me as a commodity, not as the expert that I was becoming. The moment that I started to raise my rates, the quality of my clients, my leads, totally improved dramatically. But also, confidence in your pricing comes from clarity. Once I got crystal clear on my costs, my value, and my process, pricing conversations became so much easier. I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew exactly what I needed to charge in order to be profitable. I knew what the project minimum needed to be to sustain the team that I had. And structure can give you freedom. Having solid pricing systems and boundaries actually freed me up to do better work. I wasn't constantly stressed about money or resentful about working for free. The reality is, it's not about being the cheapest. And I think we know this inherently, but there's this fear to raise our prices. But it is about being the right choice for your client. You're not the cheapest choice, but you're the right fit for them. The right clients will pay you for quality, expertise, and peace of mind. The wrong clients, however, will always try to negotiate you down no matter what you charge. That is called a red flag. I know I talk about that a lot. Okay, so here is what this means. If this is hitting home for you, I want you to know that struggling with pricing doesn't make you bad at business. It honestly just makes you human, like me. Most of us were not taught how to price our services in school. Some of us didn't even go to design school. And let's be honest, talking about money can actually just feel uncomfortable for so many of us. But here's the thing, undercharging isn't just hurting your bank account, it's hurting your confidence. It's attracting the wrong clients to you, and it's preventing you from doing your best work. When you're constantly stressed about money, it shows up in everything you do. It shows up in your creativity, not giving yourself the time to really step outside the box, really push the boundaries, maybe go to one extra fabric store. It's also showing up in your client relationships. They could be strained. You could be working with the world's greatest. You know what I mean? I don't know. I didn't want to swear. I struggled there, guys. Sorry about that. And it's going to show up in your team morale if you're constantly stressed about pricing and money. I have been there. Nobody wants to work for an owner that's constantly talking about how we need to make money, we're not making enough. You deserve to be paid well for your expertise. You deserve clients who respect your time and value your input. And you definitely deserve to run a profitable business that supports the life that you want to live. So, speaking of pricing with confidence, I'm hosting a free workshop. It is called Priced to Profit. It's the interior designer's framework for profitable pricing. And this workshop exists because I wish someone handed me this exact playbook when I was struggling. When I was struggling with all these pricing mistakes. And I'm going to share inside that workshop the 3 strategic pricing shifts that helped me double my design fees, the same shifts that you can use to raise your rates without freaking out about clients ghosting you or pushing back. In just 60 minutes, you're going to learn the psychology behind how clients perceive value, because pricing isn't just about numbers, it's also about positioning yourself as the expert that they trust. I'm going to give you inside this workshop a simple framework that you can use to help you choose the right pricing model for your business, whether it's flat fee, it's hourly, or hybrid. There really is no one size fits all. Sorry, I know you wish there was. This is the real world practical stuff that actually works, not theory. But it's also the exact strategies that I see top earning design firms using every day. You guys can go check it out and register for free at RebeccaHay.com/profit. That's RebeccaHay.com/profit. And here's what I want you to remember from today. Every successful designer has made pricing mistakes. The difference is learning from them, like I did, but maybe faster than I did, and making changes before they become patterns that keep you stuck. So if you're undercharging right now, you're not alone, but you don't have to stay there. Please, I don't want you to stay there. The confidence that you're looking for comes from having systems in your business, the right mindset, and the right support. So I hope to see you inside my workshop. And until then, keep designing the business and the life that you love. And I'll see you soon. One more thing. I think that you are going to enjoy episode number 179. It's where I talk about pricing your services with confidence. It's a great episode that will complement this one that you just listened to. But also, there's a great conversation that I have on episode 46. It's called Budgeting, Pricing Your Services, and Attracting the Right Trades with Maya Rafi. It's a great conversation between designers where you can hear different perspectives on pricing. That's episode 46. And then also go check out episode 179. Okay, that's it. See you soon.